Should be good. Okay, should be good, Robert.
Okay, let's see, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the capital outlay meeting, April 25th, 2023. The time is 3:05. This meeting is being recorded. We intend to discuss those items that have been posted on the agenda, but additional topics may come up. And that will be at my discretion as the chairman to whether we will hear on those matters. With that being said, let's go ahead and rise for the pledge. So I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
of the
United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all. All right, thank you. Okay, and let's go ahead and go right into it. So let's go ahead and talk about, Mike, do we want to talk about the warrant articles?
Yes, if that's okay, because really it informs everything that has really got us here. And so we have a pretty, in my opinion, a pretty tight proposed income meeting warrant, which all the articles will be going to the BOS tomorrow night to be in order to be placed. One of the things we've been working and really trying to assess what our available funding actually is to fund the priorities in the projects based on the rankings that we've been doing over the last month or so. So we have but you'll see that the non-CPC capital proposed capital projects, they start at around Article 14 of the proposed allocated town meeting warrant. There's a $404,000 requested by the library building committee for the library building upgrades at 207 Main Street. We do have the second of a 7-year lease purchase for a fire engine. We have an additional $23,000 being asked to be funded out of the ambulance fund for the ambulance that we're almost ready to receive. That have been manufactured. We have the fourth of a 50-year lease payment on a street sweeper of the highway department. We have $50,000 that's being proposed, which actually is not a capital expense, I'm sorry, but I would be proposed to fund the power sales litigation. We have a proposed article that I would dedicate $300,000 to the Main Street road reconstruction project, $28,000 for a Brick Street alternative analysis, $34,000 to be that we considered in rent that would be funded out of the ambulance fund for a CPR compressor, $100,000 for school security and public safety upgrades at the Dayton campus, $45,000 from the cable pay access to fund cable related upgrades here and in the cable studio. So that is where we are. Big, really a big, as we know, a big focus of our last 2 or 3 meetings have focused on the I'm planning out the Main Street project. how we fund that and what, sequence that we, that we fund that and try to leverage existing, funding opportunities that we have as well. And, as we sent over earlier too, we have also explored, the possibility of being able to bond, like $1.3 million of that project as well. So if we want to jump off there with regards to the Main Street project, how we plan for that, and then we can go forward from there if that works for everybody.
Yeah, Mike, I think it's a good idea to talk about the taking this project out the bond.
Okay, so we sent over and I actually I tried to print the schedule out that I emailed around early, but we back in April 13th, on April 13th, before the town kind of went crazy for a little bit. We had an appointment with our financial advisor to discuss the possibility of bonding them. And lo and behold, things went crazy that afternoon. So we with our financial team, we met with our financial advisor yesterday morning, and I can explain the project. I'll explain the project to her. We are pretty much, we're pretty much in an anomaly, as we know, as a town, where we as a town have always been pretty adverse, to doing any borrowing within our existing levy, to fund any type of capital project. We're in other cities and towns that's pretty, it's pretty economous, especially for road projects. But one of the things, because we're dealing with a $2.1 million Main Street project over the next 2.5-3 years, that is like a very big nugget. But to try to crack all at once, which is one of the reasons why we're spreading, trying to spread it over 3 years. With our available funding resources, we asked our financial advisor to basically give us potential debt, service scenarios of what our debt service would be if we bonded out 1.3 million of the $2.1 million Main Street costs. And so she got back to us. Earlier today. If we went with a bond anticipation note that has a higher interest rate, we'd be looking at an initial debt service of $188,000 in the first year. Ending with $136,000 in year 10. And then if we went straight out to the market and went for a 13-year note at a 3.8% interest rate, we would have an initial debt service starting in FY25 at $149,000. And ending in year 13 at $103,000, actually almost $104,000. And then if we went out for 15 years at a 4% interest rate, we would start in FY25 with a debt service of $142,000 and end in year 15 at $88,400. Just based, this is just my sense here. Like we know this year in FY22, we do hypothetically have an ability to fund a 15-year debt service within like our existing levy. The issue that gives me great hesitation, however, is we know we have the existing capacity this year to be able to absorb it, but we don't have a crystal ball going into FY25. The other thing, because of that, what my recommendation would be generally now is we know that we have the resources on here now to deal with what we need to deal with for Main Street, and the funding resources needed to deal with that in FY24. So we have the resources now. We do have a pretty big remaining obligation in FY25 and 26. However, in this my opinion, to commit, to try to think about that committing to $142,000 debt service in FY24, that we would be obligated to start in FY25 with all the things uncertain. For FY25, it just, I would recommend that we just hold off on any type of borrowing. Discussion now. See how we, as we get into the fall, into next spring, see exactly where we are and where, our excess levy capacity is then based on how we plan to deal with DP. And then at that point, we approach, our ability, if we have an ability at all, to really even think about, trying to borrow. I think so. If we 5 years ago, hypothetically, were to have got into a place where we did begin, trying to fund our capital through borrowing and had things, come off and on accordingly. We have that service more established. But to try to introduce it now, with the challenge we're facing here and now, I just really think it's very risky, in my opinion. But that's just my take.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay, so given that the consensus seems to be that we would wait to see what happens after we get our free cash certified, and wait for the fall to discuss any potential bonding structure here. We should probably then take a look at what we would be recommending with regards to the special warrant articles, given our current situation.
Agreed.
Okay.
And Robert, you want to go? Sorry.
No, you could go. It's probably easier for everyone to hear you, Mike, than it is for them to hear me, and I have some background noise going on here as well.
Okay. So I know you one of the things we've been trying to do, and we almost got ourselves going into the annual town meeting last year, in a pretty significant pickle. Because we wanted to communicate at the time to our residents the full list of capital needs that we had. And so we very strategically then had an intercommittee one that actually had the proposed funding for more projects than we had the ability to pay for. One of the projects almost backfired because we didn't have an ability to pay something at the time that came very close to being paid for flight. So now, frankly, having to live through that, one of the things talking internally with the town of Taunton, that town hall over the last week or so, we want to really be very focused on proposing the annual town meeting warrant that actually only proposes what we really have an ability to actually fund and pay for now. So based on that, you'll see with regards to the Main Street project, you will see that in addition to the $250,000 we expect to be seeking from ARPA to deal with the drainage and stormwater improvements for the project. We are proposing utilizing and proposing the $300,000 in the free cash holdback that we carried over from October to have our initial FY24 proposed to our initial FY24 get proposed a commitment to Main Street at just with the 300,000 and then the additional 250 from ARPA, not including chapter 90, but just including the 300,000 and the 250 from ARPA, that would fund 550,000 right off the bat, all like on the $2.1 million in costs we know we have. And then as we look to closing out the year, in the FY23, for the FY24 certification of free cash, then when we get to special, we would then look at our ability to make additional Main Street investments once we have a new certification of free cash at that point. So that's what the draft one proposes with regards Main Street project. Are there any questions, thoughts, concerns on that?
So where does that leave our free cash after that?
We have a remaining free cash holdback of $514,000 at this point. So when we back out that 300, we have a remaining balance of $214,000. We what we have been talking about, because we know we also, as I mentioned, we have to fund the second year lease of the fire engine at $106,000. Plus, we have the $54,000 for the street sweeper. That leaves us out with the remaining balance after that of about $44,000. And as of right now, in terms of the available funding sources that we have, none of them would rely on having a draw from the capital stabilization fund.
Okay, so if we then start, then we need to start looking at the grades on these, correct, on the scores?
Yes. Yeah, and that's where the grades will come in. A few of these we do have dedicated funding sources for them. There has been a proposed article as well for the Brick Street as I mentioned, the alternatives analysis that would propose to be funded out of that remaining $44,000 in free cash. But the things we know that we don't have an ability to fund are going into the annual that almost would be automatically be deferred to the special town meeting as they have in the past would be the patrol vehicle for the PD. We in talking with the highway superintendent earlier, he has an ability this current fiscal year to address the William Street drainage upgrades. Already in his existing kind of appropriations, and the old Somerset Avenue would be on hold at this point, unless the highway superintendent wanted to utilize the dedicated Chapter 90 funding. We thankfully things are evolving pretty good with regards to the Pleasant Street Bridge. We've been having ongoing discussions with our consultant on that. And we need to set up a meeting with the state. But there's a possibility, as we discussed last time, that the state may take over the construction and the funding of that project, which would be very good for us. And then the fire chief, in talking with him, he does have the availability to hold off on a new cruiser this year. We have a way to fund with regards to ARPA funds, the MS4 implementation plan and the sewer power plant station repairs. And the only major thing, and I hate to say only because it's critically important, is we do have we have two remaining priorities from FY23. Number one is $300,000 for the SCBA and RIP packs for the fire department. The chief and I, the fire chief and I, early this year, we worked on a pretty comprehensive and I think well-written grant application to the feds to be hopefully able to have the federal government through the federal assistance to firefighters grant program fund that. And we'll know the status of that in the early fall. So that's why we're holding on that for now. And then Tom, I believe we also have not yet funded the Maple Swamp Road guardrails yet either, right?
No, it's to be considered as a Chapter 90.
Okay. Okay. So, and basically that's where we are with what we have ranked, and tried to schedule for FY24, again, FY23 as well.
Back to William Street
Yes.
again, because it's over $5,000. It's still.
It comes here, but because you have, but the question was, we ranked William Street drainage. Because the cost of that was over $5,000. However, because we have an ability to fund those upgrades this year, we ranked it. So, but the funding source is really essentially the FY23 budget combined. It's the FY23 budget then, correct, Tom, as a funding source? So at this time we ranked it, so but we have an already existing funding source for that project. That's really all we need to do.
Can you lift the screen so I can see what's below?
I'm sorry.
Right, that's good, right there. Thank you.
Yep. And yeah, one of the things we've had to even try to like separate out in FY 23-24. I think going forward as well, like is really to separate out kind of wish list items. Like from really like projects that just raise to a high priority.
So highway has Main Street from Elm to Williamsburg twice,
Yes, because it's continue over multiple fiscal years.
fiscal years, right?
One of the things we haven't really perfected yet in the technology is that in 2025, that entire entire capital cost reflected. So it reflects reflects the rough cost when you combine all available funding sources. So like it is, so that number would be different from what would actually be, so it end up on a warrant, because if we have existing funding sources those funding sources are already included in that number, so then we have to back out that number, yeah. One of really, like in my view, the most challenging thing, like before us that we've been grappling, like is really defining kind of the rules of the road as we build this. So we have really an understanding of how we're really like reflecting all of these things, because in a capital plan, as we know, these things can be reflected in so many ways, and it's just really especially for the six of us, is really defining it. So like we're all on the same page and we're all jumping off and we're from the same place.
If we want to proceed into the ranking.
We got it ready then? Oh, that's right. So yeah, we do have all the rankings.
So Mike, do we want to, can we like shrink this view down so it's only the things we need to consider? So only
Yep.
include
Yes.
FY 24.
Let's see. And yeah, like we don't even want any 23 on there at this point, right, Robert?
Right, yeah, we don't.
Probably not.
Well, unless those things from 23 were to be carried forward to 24. And we just didn't change the year.
True, okay. And then what we'll do. We'll sort those rankings from largest to smallest. So the items that don't have any rankings, they're all the way at the bottom as well. So. Here we are. So hold on a sec, I'm just, I did actually insert where we could be with potential funding sources as well. So. One of the things that I was mentioning earlier. Please. With. And yeah, for the Main Street project. Oh, yeah, the funding source currently says free cash, but that is, that's. Like a loaded. Like it's a loaded funding source because as I mentioned, free cash alone doesn't have an ability to fund that whole thing. And then the ones in greens we've already funded as well. And everything down here we haven't even yet ranked because of a bunch of issues.
Yeah, Mike, let's first off, can we get this? Let's just look at what was there in 23 and didn't get funded.
Okay.
So. And then all the no's here. So if we can just show the no's on this one, then.
Oh, yep, sorry. Okay.
All right, so this is. That first one there is now being considered for FY24, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so is this a duplicate entry now, or should we just change that to FY24?
We can change that to FY24 on the back end, but it's the same entry, they're not duplicated.
Yeah, I just don't want, so as we move forward with this file kind of also serving as kind of our record keeping process.
Yep.
I don't want this to keep reflecting that we did this in FY23. It never got approved in FY23, and if we push it to 24, then.
Yeah.
Or do you have a duplicate entry in here for 24 already?
We don't. The power plant pump station. Oh yeah, no, it's so the things that are being recommended for funding now. So in terms of ARPA, we should be able to apply for that ARPA grant in FY23. Oh, that is why that capital priority is ranked for FY23 because we're applying for it in FY23. The same thing with the SCBA's. So because we applied for that grant, in FY23.
Okay.
The only other nuance with the security cameras is we would actually be, it's just really, it could go either way, it's a semantic thing. We're proposing to use FY23 funds to actually fund the purchase of those cameras. So that's why, with regards to those three things, that's the only reason that FY23 is actually still listed.
Okay, so then everything that's from the 1-ton dump truck and below should be pushed to 2024, correct?
Yes, sir.
As considerations.
Yes.
Okay.
And actually and one of those not even funded. Oh no, it hasn't. I take that back. The asphalt of the basketball. No, I'm sorry, that was a parking lot.
wind tunnel's being built.
Oh, yeah, I'm on from being built. See, I knew we did more than we.
Okay. So then if we go back to our view where we show everything that's outstanding that we need to consider from, you know, not having a funding source, what does that look like?
Funding source.
Not,
Hold
well, not the literal,
Yeah.
not the literal
Okay,
column,
got it,
but,
okay.
but from FY 23 and what FY 24, those things that we have yet to identify how we're going to pay for them.
So like here, how we've been classifying, we've only been putting them into yes when they've actually been approved by town meeting. So that's why even though we have potential funding sources here, like until they're actually approved, it doesn't change anything on capital.
Yeah, I think maybe we might want to add another like state in here and just put, you know, like planned or yeah.
Yep,
And that way everything, you know, we'll be able to distinguish
yep.
that we've planned, you know, we've already planned for this versus we still need to determine it.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
All right. Okay, so we don't have to consider line item 4. So line item 5 and 9 there are, I thought those we were taking out of chapter 90 this year.
The William Street is already being done now. And there's another internal issue with Old Somerset Ave. So we don't have, and yeah, that's on hold, but William Street is already being done.
Okay. So. Okay. So again, so based on our priority scoring, and then we haven't scored everything either. So if we go to the bottom of the list, there are things there that we need to consider, right?
Yeah, but this is my understanding. One of the reasons why, so there are 2 reasons why we haven't ranked them. One, so because of me, like a lot of these priorities were priorities that were proposed in our initial capital plan. That we really, based on our available funding last year, we haven't yet considered them rankable number 1. Also, there are other things based on conversations like I've had like with the fire chief for like a new car 1. He submitted that last year, so anticipating that he might need it this year, but he doesn't. So that's another example. The IT priorities, just as another example, that was originally proposed more or less as a placeholder. But we've been able to address our IT infrastructure in other ways to advance, like in other opportunities too.
Yeah. Okay. So those are things that we can actually start designating those as FY 25 then.
Yes. Yep.
We can already start pushing those out. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So then if we go back to the top of the list and just looked at what we've ranked, line item number 5, which is Old Somerset Ave. I know it's on hold, but it's not on hold because of Is it on hold because of funding or is it on hold because of other reasons?
Other reasons.
Okay. So do we need to consider, does that need to be considered as coming out of capital stabilization for next year?
Like it may, but I mean, I would say we have an ability to identify a funding source for $12,000 rather than having a capital stabilization bar, but that's just me.
Yeah, I would think we could as well. Okay. So then next would be the Pleasant Street Bridge, right?
Yes, and that's evolving as well because of like a burgeoning hope that the state might take that project over.
Right. Okay. So how do we need to do this, Mike? I know we are only really making recommendations to the finance committee in terms of how we're proposing on funding these things. Do we actually need to take a formal vote as a committee?
So, and this is one of the things. Like I think you just brought up a really good point, Robert. So in terms of the charge of the committees, and I can pull up the bylaw, but my understanding and view of what the capital planning committees do, like is they rank and prioritize the projects that have been submitted. So then when we get to warrant articles and examining our ability to fund, and where the funding would come from. So in terms of a warrant article that the capital outlay committee would have already ranked and prioritized them. So like, I would argue that with the, I wouldn't actually call them recommendations, but with the rankings that we've done and completed, we have actually performed what actually our charge really is. Does anyone have any other thoughts on that?
No.
I apologize. It feels like I'm dominating the meeting and I don't, that's not my intention.
No, this is good, Mike. We need some clarification on how to, how the process is intended to work here. Based upon how the bylaw reads, not only that, but then also what the purpose of this group is and helping in defining what our process should be in this. And I think, obviously, as we continue to mature as a committee, we'll be refining the way that we do things so that we get better at this. But I think, to your point, if that's our charge is exactly what we've laid out here, which is to ascertain what is the priority of getting these projects out there and funded, then we've essentially completed that aspect of it.
Brenda, do you have any thoughts?
Because what happens
They're not the ones we didn't fund from our previous year. How do we catch up on all that? Because other things are gonna be rated,
Coming on,
right? That's a problem.
agreed. So
We have more projects than funding.
I mean, I'm just saying out loud, but maybe every year,
Mm.
based on what the projects that might have been proposed more wish list items, maybe we clean that up at the end of every process, like where we are this year. So we clean the list up, so when we identify as a committee, the projects that are more or less wish list rather than real needs, and we drop them off. We actually drop them from our list. That's just a thought, but I don't have all the answers there.
But if we. Next question.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm more of the opinion that we, at the end of this process, we go ahead and publish a list to the department heads that says essentially,
Okay.
here's a list of things that were not funded. And of course, that's, as of, whatever date, let's say let's say the end of the calendar year. Okay,
Yeah.
these were not funded during either FY24 budgeting or at special town meeting. Therefore, you need to let me know if these are items you wish to pursue for the next fiscal year, and just leave it at that. And then we can just change our spreadsheet to bump it from the current, from the year submitted to the next year.
That's what that makes sense.
That makes way more sense in my idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did pull up our bylaw as well, so it just so we can recheck in with that, so to make sure we are operating in harmony with that. And in section 3, it says the committee shall consider the relative need, timing, and cost of capital expenditures and the effect each will have on the financial position of the town. The committee will make recommendations on the scheduling of capital expenditures and shall report its finding. We're getting to the 5-year plan still, but we are pretty close to making our FY24 findings available anyways.
Right. Okay. Okay, so then to Brenda's point, do we need to? I know we can eliminate some of those that don't have a score in there, but are there some that we still need to score?
Am I misreading it, just as a point of clarification for my own knowledge? Where does it say in section 2 that it's for things that cost over $50,000?
Yeah, that's what the bylaw said, but the committee decided at the beginning that so though we weren't increasing the threshold, there was nothing preventing us from having a lower threshold.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was just curious.
So back to your question, Robert. I think it's an important one.
So it's like you said, Mike, we can eliminate the cruiser, the emergency cruiser for the fire department. We can eliminate the IT infrastructure priorities.
Well, I think we can eliminate the IT infrastructure, but I do think we should keep reaching out. Maybe a hybrid of what has been discussed. We can clean up the priorities that already have a funding source or may have already been dealt with in some way or another. But then we reach out to those departments who we haven't named. So like ask them if it's a priority, and then at a follow-up meeting, have them in and then rank them.
That sounds feasible to me.
That makes sense, Brenda?
It does, but every department is gonna think that their items are needed,
Well, they can keep them on then.
you know,
Well, we can rank them again, but that doesn't ever mean they're gonna be funded either.
it's sad. Yeah,
But it does give us some sense of where they fall in terms of need.
Yep,
So, even though for example, the sewer department, the one at the very bottom there, 3/4 ton.
yeah,
That might be a want right now. And in 2 years, when they tell us that the engine's blown, it becomes a need, and all of a sudden your ranking goes from, bottom of the list to near the top of the list, and we need to look
agreed.
at doing that. And so these are all
Yeah,
things
but
that they all have an end of useful life, right?
agreed.
that's,
We're just kind of
It-
hedging our
it's
bets
on
right
me.
now that end of life isn't right now.
Oh, well, yeah, in the sewer, they've, been very diligent and they're trying to really, in my opinion, scrape by. We're making sure that the sewer enterprise fund has a healthy enough retained, has a healthy enough retained earning. That they have the ability within, they're very, they don't have the ability to spread their rates out to a whole lot of ratepayers. But at the same time, they're trying to deal with their capital infrastructure. So I do know that replacement of the truck, the sewer is actually forgoing that for the time being, so they can help us address the pump station down by the police station. That truck, I believe, is a 1996 F-150.
It's a early or mid 1990s. That could be replaced with a green vehicle too. We've discussed that, if you guys had the opportunity to grab one.
Okay. So yeah, so. I genuinely think we're saying the same thing. There's a lot of things, even though they haven't been yet ranked. That doesn't mean they're dropping off. But I do think for the point of being able to go into town meeting or have help the selectmen and the FinCom continue on in the process. I do believe we've generally done the job we've been charged with doing.
Yeah, you won't hear me disagree with that.
Any other thoughts, Peter?
Oh, what happens when the parking lot that we set aside $30,000 for the tennis court doesn't get paid? Does that eventually come back to free cash?
Yes, if that article is closed out, yes.
So it's going to come back because it's going to get closed out this year because they can't pay it.
But they're using a type of asphalt that the town meeting article will cover.
Okay.
But there will be cost savings from that. And I think pretty good cost savings, so that will get closed out back into the cash. I think that the asphalt and the best. Yeah. That shouldn't be designated because that has been funny, that's not the parking lot. Typo.
Any other questions on this list then?
No.
No,
And anything that's at the bottom of the list that honestly, if we need to address. And Mike, we should probably just send out a distribution to the department heads. Saying, indicating that, if your request wasn't considered at annual, that you feel a need to push it, to the forefront for special, that they indicate their desire to do so, and then this committee would reconvene to discuss, and hear them out in terms of the importance of their requests.
agreed.
Okay. All right, so in general, is this committee comfortable with this being our plan during discussions with FinCom and Board of Selectmen with regards to the prioritization of the warrant articles that are represented by these efforts?
I would say so.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I think, Mike, we've talked about everything really. We've finished the scoring. We've talked about our overall capital plan, our decision to hold off on bonding, and then in particular what we're displaying here on the screen. And we're going to go ahead and move forward with this as our approach in those discussions.
Okay.
Okay.
With that, we do have the approval of the September 22nd and the March 20th meeting minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. So, I will do these individually. So first off, the Capital Outlay Committee meeting minutes for September 22nd, 2022. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns?
No,
All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Motion has been made
second.
and seconded.
McMullen.
All those in favor, I think we have to do this by roll call, so I'll start and then we'll go to Serena. So Robert Rendon is an aye.
Serena is an aye.
And those in the room.
Eliza Kuchar is an aye.
Brenda Herbeck, aye.
I wasn't here.
For all that.
McMullen, aye.
Right, so the motion passes. We'll move next to the meeting minutes for the Capital Outlay Committee dated March 20th, 2023. Any questions, comments, concerns on that set of minutes? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Robert Rendon is an aye.
Serena is an aye.
Eliza Kuchar, aye.
Brenda Herbeck, aye.
I wasn't here.
For all that.
McMullen, aye.
All right, those meeting minutes pass, or the motion passes, I should say, to approve those meeting minutes. All right, so when do we think we need to meet next? Is it once the final warrant is published? Is it, or Mike, do you think we're done at this point in time in that you and I representing the spreadsheet here in our meetings with the FinCom and Board of Selectmen would be sufficient up and leading up to town meeting.
Yeah. I do, exactly what you said.
Okay, okay. And I know Serena, you're in quite a few of those meetings as well, so. So we'll be well represented, and of course, Peter's gonna be there as well, so. Although he's new to the committee as the Board of Selectmen representative here. So. Okay, I think that's it then for today. Mike, I'll just open it up if anybody has anything that they need to discuss. Now's the time before we adjourn.
Anything else?
No.
Anything else, Tom?
At this time.
All right.
Should be good.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Second.
Right. Although we need a roll call vote for that too.
Yes, we do. Robert Rendon, aye.
Serena Emerald, I.
Liza Kuchar, aye.
Linda Herbeck, aye.
Peter Karen, aye.
All right.
Mike Mullen,
All
aye.
right, motion to adjourn passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
License.